Hello and welcome to the AI Vantage. I'm your host, Salim Hasham. On this show, we talk a lot about the big vision for AI, but vision is nothing without a blueprint for success. How do you take these powerful concepts and turn them into scalable, secure, and profitable solutions for customers? That's where engineering comes in. And that's why I'm so thrilled to be joined by Noel Kenehan, Google Cloud's head of partner engineering. Noel's mission is to give our partners the tools, protocols, and platforms they need to deliver AI at scale today. We're going to explore the world of Agentic AI, simplify concepts you need to know, and discuss how to apply them. If you're ready to move from concept to code and build the next generation of AI solutions, this is your episode. Let's get into it. Beyond the AI hype lies your next big opportunity. I'm Salim Hasham, Director of AI Transformation at Google Cloud, where I bring more than 2 decades of working with CEOs and their leadership teams to deliver business impact. Join me as I sit down with the brightest minds from Google, our partners, and customers to share real-world stories and proven strategies for AI success. This is your seat at the table. Welcome to the AI Vantage.
Good to see you, Salim.
All right. So Noel, welcome to the AI Vantage. So if I can, let's begin with a little bit about you. And so what brings a handsome Irishman from Tipperary all the way to Silicon Valley? I mean, presumably like the power couple, your wife is stored in quantum, you're in AI, so you must be quite the brainiac.
Well, I'll blame her for everything. You know, I started in Ireland, followed her to Sweden. And, you know, we're in Sweden for 7-8 years, rolling out multiple Gs. I won't say how many and give away my age, with Ericsson. And then we had our son. She was on maternity leave, and we traded in our, snow tires on our stroller for sand in San Diego.
Fantastic.
And moved to US. So 6 months became 15 years. Transitioned from 5G into a little bit of telco work within Google, within our partner engineering team, which I'm still part of. And then about 3 years ago, moving over to the AI work, which beginning of generative AI as it was starting, really exciting to sort of ramp up with all of those teams and bring my teams, also transition them from being cloud experts and sort of bringing them along that journey with AI. So it's been a very, very exciting few years. And obviously going back from Tipperary to here, it feels like, if I can say, it's a long way, but maybe that's...
And the weather's a little better too.
Yes, yeah,
Fantastic.
a little better.
And so help our audience understand, our audience are our partners, their customers, and AI enthusiasts, understand what you do.
So my role and my team's role, so we're global partner engineering, focused on AI, all things AI with our partners. So as you can imagine, when you have, over 500 releases a year on a particular technology, there's kind of a lot going on. You need to help.
Exactly. I can't keep up most of the time.
I mean, it's extremely difficult. So you have our own products, you have partner capabilities, you have competitor products that are in the market. We have a lot of co-opetition. We work very closely with many of our partners. So big part of it is enabling them just from getting up to speed on what's new. We have some incredibly exciting launches today. So a lot of work to do to make sure our partners understand that. So that's the step number one, is to really make sure that they know. And then we go all the way through to helping them with blueprints, helping them to understand, well, what can you do with this technology? Brainstorming with them on, here's what this technology can bring you now. Here's how you put the right frameworks in place to make sure that we don't make a one-off demo, that we actually create something that you can scale, you can change, you can switch models out, you can evaluate. So the CEO doesn't say, hey, this looks cool, but how do I know it's working? How do I know when to say yes or no? So there's a lot of those frameworks, blueprints, and supporting them with customer engagements in those first design wins.
Exactly. In my own experience working with you, so I get to dream up all kinds of use cases, but then I have to pick up the bat phone and you come in with all of your superstar engineers.
And it is the case that, we rely on our partners. They're the experts in the industries. They're the experts in the verticals. So I think it's a really nice combination between our tech, our knowledge, what's coming next, bringing them the latest and greatest, and then them bringing us all of the great knowledge they have in the verticals and bringing that to customers.
Fantastic, fantastic. So what I'd love to do, and the whole purpose of the AI Vantage is pulling back the curtain and reducing the hype to reality, if it is, right? And so if you and your team are on the other end of that bat phone, And I like to think of it as sort of concept to code, right? So there's an idea of a thing that we would like to do, and unfortunately, we need the expertise, and then we pick up the phone and you come in and you make it reality. So at the coalface, you must be seeing lots of really interesting things. Can you maybe give us some sense of what you're seeing that's real, what approaches our partners and customers are taking, and maybe throw in an exciting example or two?
Yeah, so I think there's a few things that are happening in parallel which are incredibly exciting. So we're actually running a hackathon at the moment. So kind of going from that starting point, which is taking a concept and in 8 hours, taking that to something that's production ready. So I think hackathons have got bad name because it's kind of a toy solution. You have a couple of hundred lines of code. It's not really deployable. We're putting all the frameworks in place, evaluation, CI/CD, all the different models, making that structure around it and framework. So you have something that's really a massive accelerator going to a customer. So I never see a partner going to a customer with a slide deck. They should be going with maybe a slide or two and a bunch of demos actually solving the customer's problem. Yeah. That changes the game completely. We've had customers where we went to a very skeptical customer together with a partner. We brought them 3 demos. We came away with 26 use cases they wanted us to implement. So that's the sort of starting point of changing the game when it comes to customers. Then I think we have amazing capabilities around contact center. I think there's a lot of things happening in that space. A lot of our partners are very focused there. But I think the other side of this, Gen Media is becoming a huge area. We're just starting to see the really incredible things of going from idea to storyboard to generating images to generating videos. Talking to an Australian company who produced a lot of soap operas, they spent 10 million on one soap opera.
10 million.
But that was just for a 10-second shot of a train exploding.
Wow.
And they actually blew up a train to take that shot. Cost a little bit more. With VO, they could have generated just that scene for, dollars, a few $100, and save that money and put that into other parts of the production, that they wanted to do. So I think you're going to see incredible pieces of this coming in all sorts of areas. And the other part that I want to talk about, it's maybe the nerdy part, but, logistics is really exciting for me in supply chain. So, shipping is one area where we've seen enormous, enhancements and changes. So we have AI doing things like just the logistics and sort of scheduling and so on. But Google now has the best weather, weather prediction models. So we're predicting hurricanes better than anybody else right now and so on. And that allows you to know the wave height, the wind direction, understanding if there's any impacts at a port. There's fog in this port in China. It's going to affect the speed at which ships come in and out. And a ship sitting at a dock costs a lot of money. A ship going a little bit slower between point A and point B saves money. So if you're saying, hey, there's a delay, maybe I should arrive 12 hours later, that's actually a huge piece of information.
That's fascinating.
So it's so interesting. And sorry, I get a little excited. So
Not at all.
I could stay going.
Logistics is that exciting?
Of course.
So if we could maybe think about adoption for a second, right? Because there's a lot of hype about AI. There's also a lot of criticism about maybe adoption being slower. Are there things that you're seeing in terms of approaches that either our customers and or our partners are doing that's successful? Mm-hmm. Are there use cases today that are more practical than maybe others a few years from now?
Yeah, so I think there's a few things there. The MIT came out with a study that a lot of people are talking about. 95% of experiments are failing. The part of that people don't talk about is they said more than 2/3 of more niche targeted experiments actually succeed. And I think that's what we're seeing. I mean, our partners are not going to customers with, say, random ideas. They're going with very bespoke solutions that are actually solving problems. So I think the successful scenarios, there's a few things that we see that really bring success. One is having the right executive buy-in, understanding what's happening. I think we get that the majority of the time. Mm-hmm. The other part is going from the big picture, I'm going to transform your business with 500 agents, to, well, what are the first 5 that are going to move the needle and actually get people on board? Because there's a huge part of people change management that needs to happen in this as well. So there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of doubt. What we're seeing is augmenting humans, increasing productivity, actually makes people happier, increases the work, and gets that next round of agents built. So that's another really important piece, getting from that big picture transformation down to what are the steps we want to take and understanding what the use cases are. And then the last piece is, coming back to my tech side, is having the platform that allows you to change out models, have CI/CD, understand that I'm going to need to update this in 6 months' time, making sure you have the evaluation frameworks, and so you can show the exec team that this is actually working in the way you want. We've had banks who implemented amazing chatbot systems tied to their whole backend, agents everywhere, doing amazing things, performing much better than human agents and augmenting human agents in those scenarios as well. But they weren't willing to accept it because they didn't have the right metrics for them to be able to latch onto to say, okay, I'm worried this might go wrong. Tell me it isn't. So that's a huge part of this.
Perfect. So let's unpeel that a bit. And I think, with our audience, maybe everybody doesn't understand fully what it is that Google has or builds or is about to release. Let's demystify all of the acronyms. And I'm hearing acronyms all over the place, right? And so from a Google perspective, how do we help our customers, our partners, take an idea, that sort of concept to code? What do we provide? And you talk about a platform. So what's sort of the secret sauce of the Google approach to engineering? What is AgentBuilder, ADK, all of these things that are available, perhaps very confusing?
Yeah, so, we're trying to make it as easy as possible for people to build agents, and also for you to make the most complex agents that you need to build. And obviously you need slightly different tools for that. And we have that suite of tools. So if you start with Gemini Enterprise, which is our front end for all things agentic, we have a full no-code agent in there. So think about that kind of agent designer as somebody who wants to, hey, when I get an email from Salim, I want to make sure it goes into my top priority. Every email I get from you goes to top priority, of course. And then I want to put time in my calendar to make sure that I spend time on everything you ask me to do, and so on. So I have a workflow that I want to put that through. I'm going to allocate some work to my team. That can be done no code, drag and drop within agent space through that agent designer. So that's sort of the highest level where you're thinking about individual employees really doing this.
And we have customers who have competitions within their own organizations of people building agents and then releasing them to see how they do. Is that what they use?
Absolutely. I mean, there's multiple, depends on the group. We've had partners who their entire board of directors made agents live in a meeting over the course of a handful of minutes. So that's I do not want to cast any doubt in the technical competence of the board, but I think that's still pretty impressive, right? And then you get to, okay, we have software developers, and for them we have a different set of tools. So ADK is our agent development kit. People might be familiar with LangChain, LangGraph, these kind of tools which have been the open source sort of go-to since AI started. ADK also open source, so again, nothing tying you to the Google platform. It ups the level, so it kind of takes the abstraction a little bit higher, and it's still a software developer tool, but it allows you to not have to have a really expensive AI-specific experts. It's sort of any Python developer, which I think there's a lot of these days, can now develop AI code really well, really quickly with ADK. So it makes a lot of that AI intricate knowledge really, really simple. So that allows you to build agents really fast and have multi-agent systems, call tools like MCP, another acronym that's Anthropic's open source tool creation protocol that's now kind of a standard. So these are two of the really key pieces, and it allows you to build agents really quickly. The last part, and I think it's an interesting place of where agents are going to go. So, we're going to get into a world where there's thousands of agents. I have agents built in Salesforce in their Agentforce system. I have agents that are built within ServiceNow's platform. I have agents built in Workday's platform, and I have agents built in AgentSpace or on Google Cloud. And I want all those agents to talk to each other. And that's where our agent-to-agent protocol, A2A protocol, comes in. It allows all those agents to talk to each other, and the intelligence stays where the data is. You can actually have those agents communicate orchestrate them, and have really complex workflows. So I think that's just the beginning of this really exciting world where we're going to have thousands of agents collaborating in teams across different platforms.
That's an exciting world. So let's dig in a little bit on the approach and the platform, right? So a common misconception or a common question that I hear all the time, is it one model, many models? Is it one provider, many provider? And so if you think about sort of the engineering ethos of Google, which is let's build the platform that allows you to do as many things as possible. There are 300 models available on Model Garden, you can choose. And so from a practical perspective, what are you seeing our partners and customers do? Are they building their own models? Are they buying the best model to fit the job? Is it one model to do everything? And are there sort of lessons learned that we can help our partners think about as they approach the problem?
Absolutely. So the answer to your question is yes.
It's all of them.
Yes, exactly. So I think you definitely have partners who are, if you're in the pharmaceutical industry, if you have very bespoke knowledge that's maybe private to you, then there is value in building your own models. I think we're seeing a little bit less of that than we thought we would maybe 2 years ago and was being talked about. And that's largely due to the quality of the models is really off the charts in comparison to where it was, 2 years ago. So now we're more getting into, can I distill those large models into smaller, cheaper models that answer my questions really well?
Distillation is a large model making a smaller model?
Exactly. You're basically training, think about teacher-student. You're training it to say, hey, my large model can do 1,000 things, but I need it to do 3 things really well. So I don't need all of that, but I need it to train to get this smaller model to do those pieces. So that's a really cheap, efficient way to get the knowledge, but not have the cost and maybe some latency and so on. So we're seeing that as a big paradigm. The other part is, different models are good for different things.
Right.
So Gemini 2.5 Pro, just taking our suite of models, that's our best, most performant model. But Gemini 2.5 Flash is really, really good. It's faster, it's cheaper. So that should be your default. And then you kind of upgrade to Pro if you're saying, hey, it's not giving me the best answers.
Yeah.
There's open source models, Gemma, there's lots of others, you have Llama and so on. That might be the right case if you want to put it in a different environment, so on. So there's different use cases for different things. You look at the leaderboards, Anthropic's going to be really good at something, Mistral's going to be really good at something, Gemini's going to be really good at something. And based on your cost performance, based on the latency or whatever bespoke interest you have, there will be different models. And I think that's where the platform comes in to really be able to switch between those models pretty easily and not have that as a huge lift. They will change, they're going to get upgraded, somebody's going to get better at something, and you want to have that flexibility. And that's, the Google Cloud Platform allows you, as I said, over 300 models. That's our ethos.
Fantastic. So before we tie a bow on the present, what are sort of 4 or 5 lessons that you think, our partners, our customers, CEOs thinking about AI today, practically? What are sort of 4 or 5 things, if you distill all of your experience, that they should take away?
So I think number one is think about the platform. And I say that because, I can build the MVP, I can build that initial prototype, but you run into trouble as soon as you get into what about security? What about evaluation? What about, CI/CD, the next round?
I have a case of a bank that took 6 months to clear one model. And by the time they cleared it, there had been 2 upgrades.
Of course. So you need to put that framework in place to make sure that's I think, the most important piece. The other, there's other parts that really come down to the change management. So again, to your bank example, what are the metrics that we agree on that we're actually monitoring? We've got into, again, I'll just go to the contact center. We get into scenarios where, you're kind of feeling it's a little strange when the AI is performing way better than humans, but you're still not thinking that it's at a good enough level. So kind of, it's good to set the metrics as to, okay, what's good enough here? What's actually success look like? So I think that's another thing, alignment on what the actual metrics are. I think the third part comes to, well, what's our end goal? How do we kind of look at this going, but also not getting completely boil the ocean and get distracted. So we have 2 different versions of that. One is you have 1,000 experiments happening everywhere in the company. Everybody's using different models, different platforms, different capabilities, and there's no pulling it together. You have the other part of boiling the ocean and not understanding where to start. So I think having the right mix of those 2 where you kind of have a vision, you're deciding on a way forward, knowing there's a lot we don't know, but sort of building that as you go from both a platform, an idea, and a prioritization perspective. So I would say those are really key. And the last part is just change management for the folks in the teams. I mean, it's a lot of new technology. It's a lot of new capabilities. There's some fear and doubt. I think you need to alleviate that, understand that this is augmenting people. It's not replacing people,
Right.
and sort of bring that into the company as well.
Fantastic. All right, so let's step into the future, because I think the audience is going to be excited by what we at Google think the future is going to look like. But again, let's sort of say, if that's the future, how do we practically get there today? And because you're so excited about logistics and supply chain, maybe we'll use that as an example. And so if the promise of agentic a few years from now are agents in your organization suddenly saying, hey, my inventory is running low, I'm going to start looking at stock out risk or resilience risk. Another agent starts looking at the market to say, where can I buy my products? There's a custom agent somewhere else saying, which logistics sort of loop should I use? There's a purchasing agent that says, let's buy at the lowest price. Maybe there's a payments agent. And so that sounds like a wonderful future, but these are agents all over the place in different organizations. How are they all going to work together? How realistic is that vision? And then what is Google's engineering doing today as it thinks about its product roadmap to make that real?
So again, from an open source perspective, we developed, I mentioned earlier, but the agent-to-agent protocol to allow all those agents to talk to each other. This is a way to discover those agents, register the agents, and allow the agents to kind of understand how they should talk to each other. We developed that. We gave it to Linux, so it's now a fully open source system. It's
So it's a standard?
It's now a de facto standard when our some of our partners like Microsoft and AWS have already brought that on board. So lots of partners, the whole ecosystem is really bringing that to bear. So there was a huge need in the ecosystem for it. I think people were very enthusiastic that Google actually brought that forward. We tend to be pretty good at open source and doing those type of projects, now giving it to the Linux Foundation. So we have a really cross-industry board managing that from the Linux perspective. So that's fantastic. So that's a really key piece. And that's going to allow the vision that you had, which is extremely accurate. And I think we're already seeing the component parts of that. We're already seeing agents in different places, but they're not necessarily harmonized. It's not so easy for them to talk to each other. It's not so easy to discover, okay, do I have an agent on that side and how do I? So that's where...
Are we seeing multiple agents, maybe in one organization? So maybe, I don't know, procurement needs to talk to sales or finance. Are we seeing that today? Is that sort of an early experiment in this agent-to-agent?
We're definitely seeing those aspects. You know, even if you take, we had working with the water industry in UK, we were looking for nature-based solutions. So how do I put a nature-based solution? So think about, I want to extract pollution from waterways, which unfortunately is a pretty big problem in the UK. And you know, you can use chemicals, you can use water treatment plants, but we're looking for ways to use reed beds, use oyster beds, even other ways to actually pull that more naturally out of the environment. It adds to the natural environment, and so it's so massively impactful and beneficial. We were able to bring, you know, an ecologist agent together with a hydrologist agent, together with a researcher.
Like expert agents?
Expert agents that were able to sort of pull that research together, plus agents who are surveying the landscape, understanding, working with Google Maps, to actually understand where are those problem areas, to basically predict, here's the best spot to put that reed bed. And by the way, here's how it's going to grow over the next 5 years. Here's the reduction in pollution that it's going to have. Wow. So, and these are being implemented right now in the UK.
And they're reasoning in real time together?
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, these are, once those are in place, you know, typically this has been done as a once every 2 to 5 years, you kind of go back and do this massive 20-year planning. And you can imagine how accurate that is when you're bringing all of this information together. And, you know, everybody's doing their best, but it's a huge project, massive amount of time and effort, and it's very long term. So, and we know that that's going to change very quickly. Now, when you bring these agents together, it allows those same folks who are bringing that information together to do that every 3 months or every 6 months, constantly adapt, and then really understand, okay, that billion pounds of investment in that water treatment plant, actually, maybe it's better invested over here in these multiple other.
It's taking what would have been a room full of boffin PhDs and then bringing them out of a box whenever you need them.
Exactly. And bringing those boffin PhDs to have all the other information that they need to bring the insights that they need.
And so this reasoning means actually sort of the environmentalist boffin agent needs to talk to the compliance boffin. Are they reasoning in real time? So almost like a conversation?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, the way we've positioned this is that you have all of these agents talking to each other who are sort of, I build my hypothesis as agent, the ecologist agent.
Right.
And that gets to, hey, from a compliance perspective, sorry, you need to think about this now. Brings back that feedback. It goes through another loop. It checks with the hydrologist agent. Actually, the river patterns during the flood season are going to be slightly different than your impacting.
Negotiating in real time.
Negotiating in real time and getting to that final result of a report that, one is more factually correct, more iterative, and getting to the point where, hey, my compliance folks or the government agencies are basically rubber stamping it because it's kind of gone through their system almost, as we speak.
So who knew supply chain logistics and ecology was that interesting?
It's an exciting area.
So maybe let me wrap up with a fun question. So if you could speak to the gods of AI and they could give you productivity that releases 50% of your time, what would you choose to do with it?
So there's a couple of things. I'll answer that in a slightly different way. A couple of things that I see as like being very exciting. So, my wife has a startup she's launching very soon, of course, AI powered. And, she building her website going back a few months ago. My son, who's, 15, did that as a college a summer project over the space of a couple of weeks. So, I gave him the highlight. Okay, it's going to be deployed on Google Cloud. You have to write it from scratch. You can't use any of the, tools. And, gave the kind of guidelines of what the site should be. He knew I worked at Google Cloud, but not really what it meant to deploy something to Google Cloud. He'd coded it a little bit. Within a week, he had a fully functional website up and running with interactivity and so on.
Natively built on Google Cloud.
Natively built on Google Cloud. Deployed on Google Cloud with the help of a bunch of Gemini AI tools to help him write that code, figure out what was wrong and so on. So that is incredibly exciting for me to see him using those tools in a way that, just elevates the work that he can do and so on. So that's one really exciting part. I do have my AI agent helping me train for half marathon that I foolishly signed up for next year. I don't think the AI can help me train, actually do the training. It can tell me what to do,
but it can guilt and shame you into
Of course. But if I think bigger picture, there's an area that I'm like, I think government and areas of government, looking at that water example, we change laws. We have so much laws if you look at US, every state and so on, being really able to understand, I change this one piece, how will that affect everything else underneath it? How will that affect industry? How would that affect different other rules and regulations to because these are slow moving pieces, getting a piece of legislation through. So I think that would be a massive win to be able to use AI to bring all of this information together and then anticipate, okay, what could go wrong or right? Maybe if I tweak this a little bit, I'll have all the good sides and maybe none of the bad sides. So that's kind of one exciting.
It's a truly solving world problem.
Yeah, I think so.
Noel, thank you so much for a fascinating conversation. And thank you to our audience for joining us, and we hope that you continue to tune in as we explore the AI Vantage. Thank you for tuning in to the AI Vantage. Be sure to follow us on social. If you're interested in learning more about the Google Partner Ecosystem, visit the address on the screen below. Remember, the best way to predict the future is to build it. See you next time.